Hi everyone, it's Patricia Worby, Alchemy Therapies here, and today delighted to have my first transatlantic interview with Micheal Roesslein, who is the founder of RebelHealthTribe. And Micheal, I know we don't know each other too well, but I first came across you and your work through actually downloading access to the brain and nervous system masterclass, which was just fantastic. So much great information. So thank you for that. But I know you've got lots of new projects on the go, and you're very involved in this sort of functional integrative health model, aren't you? Can you tell me a little bit about how on earth did you get into this and kind of what led to that decision?
Sure. And thanks for watching the masterclass and for the kind words. That was our third one, and I'd like to think we're getting a little more polished with them as they go on. And we enjoy producing them, and we enjoy hearing feedback from people who get a lot out of it, because that's ultimately why we do them. So wow, my career in health started back in 2009. I'd originally gone to school. My first undergrad was in education history. I was a teacher for 2 years, and I didn't enjoy that. Got out of that, went back to the service industry where I'm like bartending, where I made more money and worked less hours than as a teacher. Speaks volumes to the education system. I don't know how it is there, but here
Similar.
it's, yeah.
Mm.
And worked less hours, made more money. And by the end of my 20s, though, which was late 2000, so 2008, 9, I realized that that trajectory was not where I wanted my life to be. I started to show the wears and tears of a decade in the service industry, which, for anybody who's listening to this that's ever worked in restaurants and bars, it is a lot of fun. You eat a lot of delicious things, you drink a lot of delicious things, and you don't really feel very good, and you don't sleep very much, and it's high stress. And so I was noticing that some of my friends who were a couple of decades ahead of me in that industry were not faring so well health wise, and how they were feeling and how they were looking. And I started to get back into the gym after about 5 or 6 years away, and originally got a personal training certification. I met a friend at the gym who was a trainer, and he got paid to work out, which I thought was amazing. And so I got that and started doing that a little bit, but I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. So I went back, got a master's degree in exercise physiology, which has kind of been the backbone of what I've done since then, um, with the intention of working with athletes. I wanted to be like an athletic trainer for like collegiate and professional sports. I did that for about a month, realized I don't like working with athletes, and started using some of what I'd learned to help people who kind of fell into my lap as clients, who were like back injury individuals, or like recovering from back surgery, or like chronic pain of some kind, like really deconditioned people, not athletes, like just starting to learn how to move or trying to get out of pain. And I noticed that I enjoyed that a lot more. Um, when a client would come back and say, like, I was able to walk up the stairs this week and I couldn't do that last week, that was way more important to me than if I could help somebody like jump an inch higher or whatever.
Yeah.
So I liked that. And I also quickly learned that exercise was limited as far as the depth at which I could help people.
Hmm.
And it was all I was doing myself. And I was still eating and drinking and doing all the things I was doing from the service industry, except I was training really hard. So I had more muscles, but I wasn't necessarily more healthy. And that's what I was noticing with a lot of my clients, because they'd come to me for pain, but then or pain, or, some sort of ailment, but then they would mention, oh, my digestion is terrible, or, oh, I can't sleep, or, oh, I have brain fog, and all these things. And
Mm.
so I started to just research like how to maybe help them with these things. And I stumbled across, first it was Paul Chek and the Chek Institute. I don't know if you're familiar with him
I
and his
think I
work at all,
have.
but
Yeah. Mm.
he really brought like holistic health into the fitness world. He was the first one who kind of merged the two
Hmm.
and started talking about things like organic food and stress management and sleep and emotional trauma and those
Mm.
kind of things in teaching it to fitness trainers. So um,
Mm.
I found his work. I found an article he wrote about the 50 something ingredients in a Burger King milkshake.
Mm.
And this is why we're all sick. And this is why we're all unhealthy. What is this? What is this? What is this? And he was really aggressive about it. And I dug his style. I was like, this guy makes sense. This makes sense. Like, this isn't food. Why do we eat this? And I found out he has professional trainings. I went there. I got trained as a holistic lifestyle coach, which is one of his training programs. And that's where I started to shift from everyone should starve themselves and eat no fat and eat chicken breasts and broccoli. And I don't know what that, I'll call that conventional fitness recommendations are
Yeah.
in the UK, but here it's like chicken breast, broccoli, whole grains, no fat at
No
all.
fat.
And I was doing that to people and beating the hell out of them in the gym at the same time. So like they were getting more fit and they were getting less healthy. And
Yeah, it's not the same.
no, it's not the same thing. And then I actually had a few clients who were fitness models and fitness level like competition people. They had the most messed up hormones and digestion of anyone that I'd ever worked with. And so you do not need to equate magazine covers and ripped abs with health. I learned that very quickly. And from there, I started teaching local nutrition classes to go along with the fitness stuff. I hadn't yet dabbled in anything deeper than that. But fitness and nutrition is kind of where I was then. And my clients started getting more and more complex because I would help someone with a digestive issue. So then they'd send me two of their friends who, you know, haven't had normal bathroom habits in 5 years and are on antacids and all those things. And so then I heard Reed Davis, who's the founder of FDN or Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. I heard him on a podcast talking about lab testing and gut bugs and stress hormones and all these things. And that's how his tricky clients, like he uses lab testing and finds out all this stuff about them. And I thought, that's so cool. I want to do that. So I went through FDN and got certified there and started using lab testing with clients. And it was helpful. I found I was still teaching everybody the same stuff over and over and over and over. When you start with a new client, it was like the same 20 things I was teaching. So as a teacher, I decided to create a curriculum that I could give them instead of spending their time and money and my time teaching them the same stuff. So I created a big online program that was about 15 hours long, 12 modules, everything I would ever teach anyone. I spent 9 months creating it. It was like every minute of every day I was working on it basically. And I thought if I create this awesome thing, lots of people will buy it and it'll be all worth it. And then I sold like 7 of them and made like 6 cents an hour for the time that I worked on it. Got really dejected. Only my clients were looking at it. And even then they weren't watching the whole thing through. So I was frustrated, but I knew I had something here, put it on the back burner. And then I met Joe, who I co-founded RebelHealthTribe with, in our FDN forum. He asked me to do an interview with him about gut health. And I didn't understand why. I'm like, who is this for? Like, what interview? And he explained to me that there's online summits and that he has an email list and he's promoting the online summit to his email list. And so he wants to put out content on digestion because this upcoming summit is on digestion. So then he can tell who's interested in digestion, who downloads the free. And he explained to me this whole strategy. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I didn't understand anything about marketing or online anything. I barely knew how to use the computer. And we scheduled an interview. I get off. I talk to my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And I say, I met this guy. And he doesn't even work with clients. He just does education things. He makes videos and he has an email list and he promotes other people's things. And I don't understand, but it sounds really cool. And she said, call that guy back right now and tell him about the course that you created and see if he can sell it. And so I did. I told him about it. He said, okay, sure, dude, whatever. I'll look at it. And I didn't hear from him for like a week. And then he called me and said, you made this. It's like the best thing I've ever seen. I'm in. Let's do it. And so we took 6 months. We rebranded the whole thing, made it nice and shiny, bells and whistles. We interviewed 30 people in the online health space that were related to topics that were in the course. And then we launched it with a 30-day thing where we put one new interview every day. And if you bought the summit, you got the course with it. And that's how we started Rebel Health Tribe. And that was in 2006. I think.
Brilliant.
No, not 2016. Sorry, 2016.
Yeah.
I get my decades mixed up at this point. So it was 2015, 16. It was 5-6 years ago. And from then, we've focused more on larger scale educational content. And I kind of learned the ropes from him as far as how to actually do it. And I have a lot of connections in the industry with a lot of friends who have been very generous in coming on with us and sharing their information. Started with microbiome and gut was our main focus originally, because one of the interviews from that original launch with a microbiologist, Kiran Krishnan, who's the co-founder of Microbiome Labs, and they formulate a probiotic called Megaspore Biotic. Um, his interview went viral, and we had dozens or hundreds of people contacting us for more information, how to get Megaspore, how to get this, how to do this, how to do this. So we started doing webinars with him once a month. We would have a new webinar on a new gut related topic, a new microbiome related topic. We set up an online store. We started working with their products and retailing their products. And then we did like 15 webinars with him. And it went everywhere off around in the like chronic illness groups on Facebook, like IBS or histamine intolerance, all these different groups. People were trying his recommendations and trying the Megaspore, and then they would go in their group and say like, hey, I tried this and it actually worked. And then we'd get floods of people. And so it grew from those microbiome series webinars. But then we wanted to do something more diverse than just talking with Quran. So then we did the microbiome masterclass, which was a bunch of people. And that was 2 years ago. Around then, my wife had her first major autoimmune flare, which was really terrifying and scary and turned our life upside down. Working through that is what developed the autoimmune masterclass, which was our second one. I basically brought in all the doctors and practitioners and experts that helped us and asked them to teach what they taught us in an event, because not everybody has access to the same Rolodex of people that I do.
No.
So I wanted to share exactly kind of who we worked with and how and what they taught and who helped us. And that was the autoimmune masterclass. And then brain and nervous system was the result of a survey. We asked our community, what topic do you want next? And that's the one they picked. And it turned out awesome. So,
It was.
and the complexity between gut health and then evolving to autoimmune, which is a lot more complex. And then the brain and the nervous system is often the missing piece that a lot of practitioners leave out, that they don't know how to work with, or they leave it out. And those are the people who try all the diets and they try all the supplements and they try all these things, but they're still hypersensitive to foods, or they're hypersensitive to chemicals or smells or to people or to emotions or to energy or to anything. And they still react to stuff, and nobody can figure it out. And that is often coming down to the brain and the nervous system and trauma and things of that nature. And so it's kind of our development of what we're teaching is kind of following what I've had to learn, because my wife had 2 more flares. And in the third one, we had to really get into deeper type of stuff with nervous system and the brain and emotional work and trauma, which is actually going to be the next masterclass, but nobody knows that yet.
Well, that's interesting, because that's my field. I don't know if you know that, but that is.
I think we mentioned it in the emails, but yeah, I'd love to chat about that. And so it's kind of my own progression has gone from like, I'm out of shape, I need to get in better shape, let's do fitness, to fitness doesn't work all the way, let's do nutrition, to there's still more complexities here. Then I went to more functional lab testing and stuff. And now, and we've taught functional medicine type content for 6 years. We also produced a film series called the Human Longevity Project about 3 years ago.
Oh, I remember that.
Jason Prawl was the voice and the face of that, but Joe and I produced it. We were the connections. We booked all the travel. We managed all the marketing. We were the ones who got most of the people to be in the film. It was our connections. So, and we helped produce the content, like steer the directions and things. So that was really good. We did that. We actually put Rebel Health Tribe on pause for 9 months to do that. And then Joe stayed there with them. And so now I've been solo with Rebel Health Tribe for 2 years. And my next endeavor, I'm into professional trainings now for psychology, trauma, emotional, spiritual, energetic type work. And that resulted 2 years ago. I've battled with depression and anxiety pretty much my whole life. And most of those things that I did didn't help much. They did a little, like obviously like getting out of the bars and that scene and sleeping. And it made a big shift, but I still with my wife's health going sideways and our life being thrown upside down and the scariness of all of that and like not knowing what's going to happen, like it really threw me into a rut. And so little over 2 years ago, I was suicidal, like level depressed, really serious, like making plans, writing letters, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I had a couple experiences that flipped that. And after that, I knew that I wanted to shift what I was doing because that to me now is like I went through all of that to have that experience, to see that shift, to be able to experience that, to push me in that direction. And I just wasn't ready for that then.
No.
Like when I first started with the fitness and the everything, this is what I was really looking for, but I didn't know. And so it's been like peeling an onion for me. Like each one of those is a different level of depth.
Yes.
And so now I'm 2 years into those trainings and I'll start doing that work in the fall with clients. And I'm partnered on a huge team building a giant platform that will launch in April called Anora, that is going to be a one-stop resource for all things mental, emotional, spiritual, trauma, energetic. We're going to have a professional database across the full spectrum of those professions. We're going to have educational materials, content, classes, workshops. Basically, the thing I was looking for when I was really struggling that didn't exist.
No.
And those types of websites exist a lot in the health space, like in the functional medicine nutrition space, like resource hubs. There's lots of them. I wasn't able to find one with that kind of work. So I had tried a lot of therapists and counselors and different things that didn't jive with me. And we're creating an assessment that users will go through to help them find the things that may jive with them a little bit faster than I was able to. And it's going to be about 10 times the size of Rebel Health Tribe the instant the doors open. It's a big, big, big project. So that's kind of that's my own progression and kind of.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
My work is following the exact same, like life has dictated work for me. Like life has dictated where I'm focused on professionally. And I think that's a obvious next step is going into that kind of work, because that's where people, if somebody stalls with functional medicine, like if somebody doesn't fully reverse what they're working on, that type of work is kind of the elephant in the room in the functional medicine integrative health space right now. Is I've watched in 10 years that world go from trauma and emotional things, and that doesn't have anything to do with chronic disease, to it might, to it probably does, to it's a definite root cause and it needs to be addressed. But that's kind of where they're at. They don't really know, most of them don't really know what to do because they're not trained in that, and they probably haven't done the work themselves. So they might have a friend who does hypnotherapy, so they'll send all their people to hypnotherapy, which will work out for some and not for everybody.
Correct.
And so we're kind of hoping that we can get this into a position where we become a step one for all of the functional medicine integrative health folks to use with their clients and patients and audience, and say, hey, this stuff is really important to help you find what you're looking for, what might be able to help you. Go here. And they have a assessment, they have excellent resources, there's professionals there, and they'll help you get set up and do that legwork, because, or that kind of work, because ultimately it will increase their patient outcomes. It will improve their patient outcomes. Like if people are including trauma processing and nervous system work and things of that nature in their approach to their chronic health issues, their chance for success exponentially increases, I think. And so I think that's my story, I guess.
Well, it's so interesting, isn't it? The links with what I'm doing and what I've learned over my journey, which have been not dissimilar. I mean, I got ill when I was in my early 30s. I had a very stressful job. I had various traumas from my childhood, but I didn't piece those things together. I just thought, well, I can handle it. Until my nervous system kind of collapsed due to all the other inputs as well, poor diet.
So the body decides you're not going to handle it.
But then it stops you, and then you have to rethink your life, which is what happened to me. And I actually work as a somatic trauma therapist, not because I decided when I was young that's what I wanted to be, just because of what happened to me and how my journey unfolded.
Mm.
And I would agree with you that it's the elephant in the room, and it's very much the basis of a lot of chronic health conditions. But because of the nature of the definition of trauma, most people think, well, if you didn't have childhood abuse, I didn't have abuse in my history, I didn't have, you're probably aware of the adverse childhood experiences study and the ACE study, but I only have one of those, so I'm not like a high ACE score. But I had all these relational issues with a father who had chronic illness, and a mother who's highly anxious, and a half brother who I didn't discover until I was 14. And there was just so many things that kind of inputted into my notion of who I was that were very unstable. I didn't have a good stable base for exploring the world. And my nervous system was constantly, as you said, hypersensitive. So I think that's a really big issue. And what it sounds like you're about to do is you're going to step from where you've been into this sort of functional medicine education into this whole big arena, which is so massive. And with long haul COVID as well, which is coming in, which is a huge stress component, right? It is going to explode.
On multiple levels. Like it's stressful on multiple levels.
Yes. But you see a lot of athletes, you see a lot of sports people saying, you know, hey, I was healthy before this, you know, I was doing Ironman or, you know, in the gym. And so the whole issue of a stress response is ignored. It's regarded as normal. They get habituated to it. So I just think that's a really great arena to be working in. And I'm just so glad you're here. I'm glad you're doing.
We'll get you on the platform. It sounds like your work would be a great fit.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, I'm doing my own sort of explorations as well. You know, I've come from kind of a holistic body work. That's where I trained in massage, myofascial release, and then, like you, I was kind of realizing that some of my clients benefited from that, and I would also give them nutritional advice. I'm trained in nutritional medicine. But there were some clients who just didn't, or they would make an improvement and then they would go back. And so it wasn't until somebody came along who really did have a childhood trauma, and I triggered her inadvertently by touching the back of her neck one day, just by doing a massage, and she flipped out and relived it in front of me. We call that abreaction. And it was the most horrendous thing. She went back to being 2 or 3, and it was, and I had no idea what was going on, but I knew she wasn't present. She wasn't there. She was somewhere else. And so I had to learn pretty damn quick what that was and what I needed to do for her. And it was to kind of stabilize her in the here and now, which is, you know, a big part of working in this arena is getting people into an internal sense of safety. So
yeah, look, that's the place of healing too. Like that's not only where that kind of healing comes from, it's where physical healing comes from too. Like if the body doesn't feel like it's in a safe place, it has other priorities, and it's going to slow you down and stop you. Dr. Gabor Mate's book, When the Body Says No.
Yeah.
His professional training is one of the 2 trainings that I'm in. So I'm studying under Gabor.
I love him.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's a lot of fun to learn from too. He's very serious, but he also can be funny. He's pretty good with that. But I've learned a lot in that training. And when he put that book out, that was probably 25 years ago now. And people thought he was crazy, saying that cancer and other chronic diseases can come from emotional traumas and repressed emotions and suppressing your own voice and all these things. And now he's the keynote speaker at a lot of the conferences that wouldn't even let him in the door 20 years ago, because he's the visionary and the, you know, whatever. And it's funny how that always seems to work. And he's pretty smart ass about it too. He knows who the people were that told him he was crazy. And now that's like the merging of it's psychoneuroimmunology is that field is basically now emerging as a major field, and even in conventional medicine,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what the hell to do with what they're finding, but they're looking, and because there's no pill for a trauma, and so
Not yet.
um, not yet. They're trying.
They're trying,
And
but
but he gets a kick out of like how big that field is emerging now. And when he
mm,
put it out before, they were all like,
mm,
"This guy's a quack. He's nuts. He works with addicts. He must be on the drugs."
right.
So, and I've learned through his work and through
Mm,
studying under him and studying all of this that I've
mm.
had severe ADD my entire life,
Ah,
which I
yes.
didn't learn until I was 40 years old, 39, 40 years. I'm 40 now. I learned that at some point in the last like
Mm,
6 to 9 months. I learned that I have severe ADD and that I've had it my whole life. Um, I learned that I've had severe anxiety
mm-hmm,
my whole life. I just
mm-hmm,
got really good at
mm-hmm.
finding ways to not be anxious, most of which were self-destructive or destructive to others, which is pretty common in those types of things. But I never realized it that, that's why I did all the things that I did. And that's why and then, yeah, so the ADD, the anxiety, the depression, like the way that trauma affects child brain development. I'm adopted. I spent my
Ah,
first 3.5 weeks in an orphanage with
oh,
no like mother contact. So I've learned a lot about that, made a lot of things make more sense to me. And so I am putting together all these pieces
mm,
that are helping me make sense of a lot of things that I've beat the hell out of myself for much of my life. Like,
yeah.
why did I do this? Why did I do that? This was bad to do. This was bad to do. I did all these bad things.
Mm,
And really, what I was doing was regulating my nervous system. Like,
exactly.
I was self medicating, self regulating,
Mm-hmm,
because like not doing that was unbearable.
mm,
And so I didn't know
mm-hmm,
what was happening. I just knew when I do this, I feel good. When I do this, I feel good. If I do this, I don't feel bad. When I do this, and then it doesn't even become conscious anymore. It's just the things you do to keep yourself at a level where you don't feel like this or something else.
yeah.
And it's not until you have, like you said, the safety
Mm-hmm,
and a safe, and learn how to be one, you increase your tolerance to be in the discomfort. But to do that, you have to have safety, and you have to have,
mm.
if you're wounded in relation, it has to heal in relation too.
Oh, exactly. I was just going to
And
say that.
so
Yeah, it has
it's
to
like
be a
you can do a lot
relational.
on your work, but there has to be a relational
Mm-hmm,
component. If it's a
mm-hmm,
relational damage,
mm-hmm.
like your misattunement with your probably very anxious mother
Mother.
with a father with chronic illness, that
Yeah,
would be so
misattunement. Mm-hmm,
you were attuned to chaos and unknown and anxiety and
yep,
panic. And
yep,
so like the way the children pick that up is like instant and energetic and
yep.
on levels we don't even
Mm,
know. And so, yeah, it's
mm,
been pretty incredible, because you mentioned you'd have clients who would get a little better and then they'd fall off. And if that was due to compliance issues, which it often is, people, I can't stick with this. I can't do this. I can't stick with this.
mm,
That's because the thing that's not what you're supposed to be doing is helping you in some way.
mm,
And until you figure that out and address that, like you're always going to be battling yourself to like not eat the cupcake or not do the stop smoking or stop drinking or stop, whatever.
mm-hmm,
Um, so like even compliance issues, people say it's a matter of willpower.
mm.
Uh, I
No,
would argue against that,
it's nothing
and
to do with
that
willpower.
you can willpower things to a certain extent, but you're going to be
Mm.
creating more conflict.
And it's stressful.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
tried it. I tried
Mm-hmm,
willpowering my way
mm-hmm,
out of all of
mm-hmm,
my things and that I was doing, and I
mm,
quit them all cold turkey at one point, and I started to develop rashes
mm,
and skin issues and all kinds of weird stuff that I'd never had before when I
mm,
cut out all my like vices, I guess I would call it, without
mm-hmm,
doing any work on any of, because I didn't know anything. I just wanted to quit everything, and my body
mm.
went crazy.
Well, yeah, there's two issues there. The first is any change is interpreted by the brain as a threat itself,
Mm,
because the amygdala, which is your threat center, is tuned in to what's familiar. I mean, I think it was Carl Sagan who found that. It was not so much about fear, it's about familiarity. So as soon
mm,
as you change, say you've grown up in an abusive environment even, and you just keep meeting people who are abusive to you, that's familiar, therefore it's safe,
mm-hmm.
according to your back brain.
Yeah.
If you've always eaten a junk food diet, which is
Mm-hmm.
called self-medicating,
Mm-hmm.
and you try and change that, that's a huge shift and your brain is going to register that as another threat. It's a change. It's something new. It doesn't feel familiar. So I think there's that going on. I don't know. I also think the willpower uses the wrong part of the brain. It's using your cognitive capacity to kind of drive you and
to
tell
try
yourself
to overrule the older, more
the older
basic,
parts, the survival parts of your brain. So there's all that going on. So, I mean, yours is a really empowering story. It's a fantastic story of how you overcame all these, you know, one
I
thing.
still struggle with certain things. I don't want to make it sound like everything's perfect.
No,
like
no,
I
it's
still,
not for me either. You know,
it's still I'm still a work in progress in a lot of areas, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there so it doesn't make it. I don't want anybody to look at this and be like, oh, now he's got everything figured out and perfect and together. It's like, I still struggle with a lot of things, and I'm still doing a lot of work, and I'm still working with multiple people to help me with that. I'm still
fantastic
doing that, but yeah, a long way. Things have shifted, and you don't always realize it either until like a memory pops up, or like social media reminds you of something, or somebody mentions something that used to like trigger you to do like there's little things that I notice. Like I used to drink a lot, and I couldn't have, if I had more than one drink, I would have like 8 drinks. So it was 1 drink or like 8 plus drinks. There was no 2 drinks. There's no 3 drinks. And the other day, I'm working on acquiring Italian citizenship. So,
cool.
Yeah. So I'll be joining you on that side.
Yay. Come over.
I will. But now you're not in the EU, so that might be more difficult. But anywho, I felt like I bought a bottle of Italian wine to celebrate getting that process started. We hired a lawyer and whatever. So I bought a bottle of Sangiovese, and we were cooking on Sunday, and I poured a glass of wine, and I had a glass of wine. And then towards the later in the day, I poured a second glass of wine. Like afterwards, I poured like another glass of wine. And when I was pouring it, I realized like there's still a thing in my brain that says like, don't drink this second glass of wine, from when I was like learning to not drink.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, it's okay to have this. You're not going to want another one.
No.
Like, it doesn't matter. It's fine. And I did, and it was fine. And there was never a thought to have more. And that would have been unfathomable to me like 7 or 8 years ago. Like that would have been, then it would have been 2 bottles of wine instead of 2 glasses of wine. And so every so often I get these little reminders that are, you know, or you get a snack food you really like or something, even if they're healthy snacks, like it's still not healthy to eat like 2 boxes of something. And I used to have no control over things like that. I couldn't buy certain things, even if they were the healthy version, or I would like eat the whole thing in one sitting. And now there's like ice cream in my freezer that's not empty. And so there's little things that I notice along the way that are big
changes.
Reminders of, you know, how things used to be and how they are now, because it doesn't happen all at once. If you're going to try to do everything all at once, you're probably not going to be very successful. I had one client ever who I gave a ton of recommendations to, like the whole sheet of all the things. She came back to me 2 weeks later, had everything dialed in, was literally doing everything, and she stuck to it, and she's made incredible changes and whatever. Once. That happened exactly once. And I like to have people set very winnable expectations of what they're going to do, because the little victories are really important. And if you set out to do like 27 things at once and you don't do 2 of them, the tendency we have is to beat the hell out of ourselves for those 2 things and ignore the 25 things we did do. And then you're a failure, and then you do less things, and there's the shame spiral and all of that. So it's a change in how you're going to live your life. It's not a change in, I'm going to do these things different this week and then I'm going to be awesome.
No, it's a complete lifestyle change. It's a total rearrangement of who you are and how you operate in the world.
And how you live. And the reason for me was I just didn't feel good. Like, I just really didn't feel good all the time. Like I felt depressed or anxious or all these things. And I started to learn that that's not, I don't want to say normal. It's possible to not have that. Like I didn't even know that until I met some people who didn't have that. And I was like, what is this person? Like, who is this healthy individual? This is weird. This energy is weird. Everything about them is weird, but I kind of like it. And it's strange. And they go to bed early and they wake up in the morning early on purpose. And they feel good. And that's weird. And they're not anxious. Like, I didn't even know I was anxious for my whole life.
No, I didn't until a
Like the
doctor
frog in
told
the
me.
water, the frog in the water thing about how if the water gets turned up slow, they burn
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know any different.
No.
Like, I didn't know any different until I started to get glimpses of like, whoa, this is what calm, grounded feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is weird. Okay, let's do more of that.
Mm.
Or, when I started to be able to go to bed at night without my mind racing, I was like, okay,
Mm.
I slept really well. Have a lot of energy. I actually want to do things in the morning and I don't hate the morning. Like, I started to notice
Mm.
little incremental wins um, that
Mm.
then compound on themselves to encourage you to keep going. At least that's how it was for me.
I think it's the way most people learn
Mm-hmm.
is how, well, the brain is guided by its achievements. You give people agency, you teach them how to be self-directed, how to take care of their nervous system, and they learn gradually. I liken it to riding a bike. It's like getting on a bicycle for the first time, and
Mm-hmm.
you're all over the place and you don't know what to do, but you gradually learn how to kind of tune into where your body needs to move to get where you need to go. And it's very like that with the nervous system, this
Yeah.
neural dysregulation that you're trying to overcome and reprogram.
And you need training wheels and you
You
need
need
somebody to
training
help you.
wheels, and that's
Yeah.
us. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We're the training wheels. We kind of sit there and we're the stability while they
Mm-hmm.
learn for themselves. And what I love about this
Yeah.
work is it's so empowering to the person. They never lose that once they've learned it. It's not like they just get better and then fall back again. It's
Mm-hmm.
something they take with them into their lives and into their relationships and their children
Yeah,
and their
it's
work.
changed
And
my marriage for sure, a
yeah,
millionfold. And she's doing a lot of work too. And like,
cool.
now there's times where something is said or something is done,
Mm.
and I still feel the same like initial reaction, but it's
Mm.
milder.
Mm-hmm.
I can observe it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't react from it.
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledge it and say like, okay, I know I get it,
Like,
and
go there.
we're not gonna freak out.
Mm-hmm.
That everything's fine. That this isn't, because when that happens, when you're triggered, Gabor says it's
Mm.
never about them.
No, it's all
It's
about
always about you.
you.
100% it's about you. So if somebody triggers you, like, why is that so triggering to you? And 95% of the time, it has nothing to do with what they did or said, or very little to do with what they did or said. And it's a part of you reacting to something that it reminds them of. And it's a response that you've learned, that you're hypersensitive. Like those little things that you say, like, oh, it really bugs me when somebody does this thing. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And there's a reason it doesn't bug her or him,
Mm-hmm.
and that it bugs you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your problem. Like that's your thing to look at. That's your thing to explore. And he's really, what I've really pulled out of that training, and I'm only about a third of the way through it so far though, is that I've become far more investigative and curious around
Mm.
my own triggers,
Yeah.
because they teach very adamantly that if you're triggered in a session with somebody, you can't provide what they need anymore.
Mm.
So if you get drawn into your stuff or their stuff or your stuff via their stuff or anybody's stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you are not the attuned safe container that they
No.
need for their sessions, so that you have to be hyper aware of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, like they said that and it triggered something in me. Mental note, explore that later. Right now, let it be, and explore that later. And they've ingrained that in us so much that I do that all the time now. And I actually carry a journal that
Brilliant.
says like, I was at the store, I heard somebody say this thing, it triggered me. And then
Mm.
like I explore it with the
Mm.
people that I'm working with.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's been really helpful. But you can feel it in the body. You become way more aware in the body of the triggers when it used to just be up here. I didn't relate body
No.
sensations to anything, didn't even notice it.
I don't think most people are body aware. When you're
No.
in anxiety, you tend to live
It's
up
all
here.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a thing
No.
here. It was a
No.
somatic experiencing practitioner that first uh,
Brilliant.
taught me.
Mm.
I was in the depths of my worst panic attacks and anxiety, which came before the suicidal depression. There was like a peak
Mm.
and then a deep dive after that was gone, where I would wake up at 2, 3 in the morning every night. And as soon as I realized I was awake, ding, anxiety through the roof, panic, whatever. And then I would just lay in bed for hours until it was the morning, trying to go back to sleep, but worrying that I'm not going back to sleep and the next day is going to be horrible and blah, 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 stories that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And she taught me to drop the story to the sensation of the anxiety and just explore what the anxiety feels like. And so I started noticing there's a tightness in my chest. There's this, there's really this. And she taught me to kind of breathe into that and feel that. And really focus on the sensation and on the breath and feeling the sensation, and then feeling the areas around the sensation that aren't like that, where there's a space.
Yep.
And trying to merge the two or feel where one starts and the other ends. And I thought she was full of shit, to be honest.
Nuts.
And I was sitting in that session and I was like, I don't feel any different. I'm still anxious. I went home. I'm like, that therapist sucks. And then later that night, I woke up at 3 a.m. I started to do what she told me. And then I woke up again and it was the morning.
Amazing.
And I was like, I did it. I fell back asleep. I woke up my wife, which was counterproductive. I was like, I slept. I fell back asleep and then I woke up and I slept. And she didn't even really understand the like gravity of what had happened. But then every time I woke up, if I did that, I was able to fall back asleep. And
yeah, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal when you start to tune into your body in a new way without fear and just to track it.
Yeah, it's just a sensation. The fear was the story that I put with the sensation.
Absolutely. And you can then get curious. You mentioned earlier about getting curious. Curiosity, when you turn that on, you start to integrate your brain and back brain and front brain.
And the brain likes the game. My brain, I have like a figure outer brain that is always trying to, because it was hyper vigilant for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it likes the puzzle of like oh, that's weird. I don't usually feel that. What is that related to? What just happened there? And so I've kind of gotten my brain on board with the somatics work.
Fantastic.
Where like the figure outer puzzle solving part of my brain enjoys that, the curiosity, the detective work of that really triggered me. Like, that's interesting. Like,
most people get triggered because they don't understand what's going on and they get fearful that what it is something worse than what they've already got. Like if it's anxiety, it's probably due to some brain tumor or they're losing your mind or something really awful is about to happen.
Go on the internet and type in your symptoms.
Yeah, exactly. Google it. So we go into a loop then, an anxiety loop of fear and more symptoms and more fear and so getting into the body is absolutely what's needed. But you need to be guided at first because otherwise that in itself is going to be triggering.
I've had a ton of guidance. Like I don't want to make it sound like I figured this stuff out on my own, or that I was very receptive to it even when it was first proposed to me.
It was
my mental cognitive was like, I can figure it all out here. I can psychoanalyze myself. I can learn all the things about myself. I know why I do all these things, so I should be able to stop them. And learning why I did all the things did not get me to stop them. It just made me more aware of when I was doing it. And I like beat myself up worse because I should know better, because I know that I do this because of this thing. I know this isn't good for me. I know. And then it got into, I still wasn't willing to sit with the original avoidance. Like I wasn't willing to be in it.
No.
And that's a whole nother skill or practice to.
It absolutely is.
Kind of learn, because there's legit stuff underneath there. Like there's
a reason.
Discomfort there. There's pain there. There's things
there's
there.
A memory.
When it's, whether you recall it or not.
It's an implicit memory of something.
That something your body knows. It always knows. It knows even and you know this, but like like I know that my pregnancy when I was in utero was very chaotic and stressful and hectic and traumatic. And I know now that wired my nervous system for that.
It did.
And so it's, and you can't speak to that. That's pre-verbal, that's pre-cognitive. It has no idea. So it has to be, when something triggers that deep anxiety, discomfort that I can't really explain or put a finger on or anything, I have to just be with it and create safety for it and have people around who can. And I've noticed eventually that it lessens, like it lessens. And so I didn't mean to turn this whole conversation into a somatics thing.
No, it's interesting though, where we've gone.
So
and,
I'm interested that like, I don't get to talk to anybody about this very much because I'm in trainings, but I'm not teaching this. I'm not doing it or anything. So I'm enjoying that my stuff is being met with your agreement because you're far more trained in it than I am. So I'm getting like a little ding for approval.
It's what I work with. It's what I do. I get people to
That's
notice.
great. And we need so much of it. This culture is so dissociated, and we pretty much share the same culture now, I think, on both sides of the Atlantic, because the same things are on the TV, and the same companies run everything, and the same marketing is everywhere, and they use the same psychology and the same tactics to make you think you suck to buy the thing, to you're too fat to eat this thing, or you're too this eat to do this thing, or buy. And so they play on, like, there's people who understand this stuff who work for them, who cause you to be nuts to do the things that they want you to do. Like this culture, this economy revolves around avoiding discomfort and pain, and like being in your body in a lot of ways.
And wanting a pill or a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Watch this, zone out on this, binge on this, buy this, smoke this, drink this, eat this. Like, it's literally driven by manipulating our avoidance of
pain.
This. And there's no aspect of our culture that involves like the present moment or grounding. Like, these are foreign concepts to people. Stability, safety, like slowness. Like, we're gonna potentially move to Italy, and Americans I know who have lived there, spent a lot of time there, all warning me, they're so slow.
Yeah.
They do everything so slow. Everything takes forever. You have to do this, it takes forever. This thing takes forever. This thing takes forever. And they're like ranting and raving to me. And I'm like, I don't think this is having the same effect on me that you're wanting it to. It makes me want it more. Like, I want things to be slow. Like, I want to be in a place where things are slow. And I said, I've been there. I noticed it. I've seen it. I know that the Italians, the Greeks, and the Spanish all kind of run on their own time. I saw how stores were open from 10 to 1, and then they're just closed the rest of the day because they may or may not come back after their 3-hour lunch break. Maybe. And to Americans, that drives people nuts. You should be accessible 24 hours a day if you sell shoes. I should be able to buy shoes from you at 11 o'clock at night when I get off my third job and watch my, it's like, no.
That's a total addiction to stress, to be honest.
Why do Italians live 10 years longer than Americans? Probably because it's slow. And they smoke a lot.
They do.
Versus here. I was there and I couldn't believe how many people were smoking. And I looked it up, and a lot more people smoke in Italy than in the US. And they live 10 years longer. And people are like, well, that must mean smoking's not bad. It's like, no, look at the speed. The exact thing you were complaining about. They spend time with their families.
They have a lot more companionship, community.
Connection, community.
Mediterranean diet.
Kids are raised by the group.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not so isolation. It's not so individual. It's not so everything. There's in that film project, we traveled around the world and recorded in Sardinia. We recorded in Greece. We recorded in Okinawa. All these places where people live to 100 and whatever. The Americans want to know, what do they eat and what exercise do they do? You know what they eat? They eat a lot of bread.
They do.
They drink a lot of wine. They stayed up late at night in Italy and in Greece.
Oh yeah.
They don't know what a gym is. If you ask a 100-year-old person in Icaria in Greece where they went and recorded, they won't even know what it is. But their lives are more physical in nature in general. But they would ask these people, what's your secret? And they said, don't hold grudges. Don't worry about things that don't matter. And spend time with the people you enjoy.
Beautiful.
And that was not what the marketers wanted, because you can't sell any of that.
Can't sell that.
But that's what they said. So
I know.
Sign me up. Get me over there.
Well, fabulous. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to slow everything down and get more real and get more connected. Look, I know we could talk forever.
Yeah.
We've got loads we could say, but I'm conscious of the time and your precious time as well. So I'm going to draw us to a close. But if people want to explore, how would they find out about what you're doing?
You can, for Rebel Health Tribe stuff, you can go to RebelHealthTribe.com. And that's where you'll find our educational things, and we have a blog there, all the master classes and some products and things like that. Innaura.com, INAURA.com. That is the new platform. If you're interested in checking that out, it's going to be really cool. There's nothing like it that exists, and we'll be able to help you find things like we just talked about. If that's not familiar to you and you're interested in it, we'll help you find it. We'll help you find where to do it locally or people to help you. We'll find information. So that'll be there.
Mm.
And you can reach me through either one of those platforms. And then we are launching a podcast at Rebel Health Tribe. We had one before,
Mhm.
but we ended it a
Mhm.
few years ago when we did the movie. We're launching a podcast over there that will be starting pretty soon.
Mhm.
And we're going to have 2 of them over on Honora. And we're going to be looking to talk to practitioners just like you. So
Cool.
maybe we'll flip roles
Yeah, that would be lovely. I'd enjoy that.
and we'll do that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
thank you so much.
Excellent.
I appreciate the conversation, and
Mm. Well,
uh, it's exciting to chat about these new things. I mentioned before we went on air that I haven't
mm.
done a lot of interviews since I
Mhm.
started doing this type of training, and it's fun. I'm
Mm.
enjoying it. It's like new and fun
Yeah.
and needed.
Yeah,
So
it absolutely is. Yep. Well, good luck with your training and everything you're involved in. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. And folks, you can find me on alchemytherapies.co.uk. Thank you.
thanks.